Good evening and welcome to the City of Burbank Police Commission meeting for April 15, 2026. I would like to call this meeting to order and begin with roll call.
Commissioner Chapman?
Here.
Commissioner Coombs?
Here.
Commissioner Ellman?
Here.
Commissioner Hartunian is not here yet. Chair Jacobian?
Present.
Commissioner McKenna?
Here.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Present.
Thank you, everyone. Now we can move on to the flag salute. Ann, would you lead us in the flag salute? Sure.
Please rise. Would everybody please place your right hand over your heart? Ready and begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I want to announce the public comment period will begin shortly. For community members here in person, please complete a speaker's card, yellow or white, and hand it to staff. In-person speakers will speak first and have up to 3 minutes. For those wishing to phone in, please call 818-238-3335. Callers will be placed in a queue and will speak after all in-person comments have been received. And now we're going to move on to item C, commission announcements and reporting out by commissioners and ad hoc subcommittees. And we'll start with Paul.
Nothing to report, sir.
Michael.
Nothing.
Ann.
Oh, me? I'm sorry. Except for today is, I do believe, Happy National Dispatcher Day. Okay, so yay and thank you. Oh,
Michael.
that's it.
Michael.
Oh, good. I'm going to keep mine short, too. We're very glad to see the response from our team in the Baker to Vegas race. They did really well. They came in first in the category that they were running, and then also 14th in the, I think, overall.
Yes, sir, 14th overall.
Yeah. So they did a fine job. We also should remember Officer Vargas, who passed away during the event. I believe he was buried yesterday, and it was an important event, and it was great that so many people in our community were supporting our police for it.
Just monitor, as I promised from the last meeting, monitoring social media and seeing that there's a greater increase in interest in some of the things we're covering, especially tonight. Other than that, nothing to report.
Thank you, James. And I would like to report on April 1st, I attended Coffee with a Cop, a wonderful event at Grano Cafe. Always great to see the community come out, support the department, ask questions, and so it was a great time. And on March 24th, I got the honor to fly to Sacramento to testify on the Senate Bill 1198, the Safer Driving Act, and came back with a 6-0 victory through the Public Safety Committee. So the bill is something that is passing through the legislators, so we'll give you guys more updates as time goes on. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the public comment period. And I would like to call on the first public commenter in person, Jim Festante. Jim, you have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Commissioners, Chief of Police, community members. My name is Jim Festante. I'm a community member, father, and longtime resident of Burbank. Right now, internet crimes against children task forces across the country are drowning in a backlog of cases. Law enforcement in Burbank is being asked to solve a digital crisis you did not create, and because of the nature of the internet, your officers are forced to be almost entirely reactionary. By the time a sextortion case reaches a detective's desk, the psychological damage to that teenager is already done. Over the past decade, we have watched a massive spike in these youth-related safety issues. Sextortion targeting teenagers, algorithms feeding dangerous viral trends, and distracted driving. We treat these as isolated behavioral problems, but they are not. As someone who spent 20 years working inside the media and tech industries, I can tell you these safety issues are the direct result of an attention economy engineered to bypass human logic. Digital platforms employ behavioral psychologists to keep our kids scrolling, reacting, and panicked. When a teenager falls victim to a financial scam or a digital predator, they aren't just making a bad choice, they're losing a psychological battle against a multi-billion-dollar algorithm. I know your school resource officers work tirelessly to warn students about these dangers, but we also know teenagers often tune out traditional warnings. I am the Executive Director of Healthy Habits, a Burbank-based media literacy organization. I'm here to offer my expertise as a proactive pressure valve for your department. We don't just tell kids to unplug, we show them the actual mechanics of the algorithms. When an officer simply says, "Don't send that photo," it can sound like a threat, but when we explain the psychological panic loop the platform just used against them, it becomes counterintelligence. I want to partner with your community outreach division to add this industry insider lens to your school presentations. If we can teach our youth to spot the trap before it springs, we can stop these crimes before they happen and reduce the reactionary burden on your officers. Let's move from reactive policing to proactive defense. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Thank you, sir. And our next speaker is Mike Stage. Did I say that? Stage? So sorry. Thank you, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm here to speak about getting the flock out of Burbank. We have had enough of the flock. It needs to go. You know, it occurred to me on the way over here that what we have is a difference of opinion, basically. You all seem to think that security, watching over us, following us, keeping an eye on us, making sure nobody does anything that we shouldn't, the least little thing, while the rest of us say we want our freedom. We want the freedom to privacy, the freedom, the right to do what we want, to be where we want, to go where we want, and not to be followed. Now, I'm a protester. I have been in many, many protests over the years, and I am always followed. In fact, I'm followed sometimes when I'm not on a protest. I get stopped all the time, wondering who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing. And to add something like the flock in there, which can follow people, is an insult. It's an insult to me, it's an insult to everybody out there who believes in America. Americans' right to protest, to privacy, to be who we are and what we are without any government organization overlooking us. And Flock will do that. They're adding enhancements to it. We're going to have 15 to 30-second live video of the cars. Drones are being added. It's going to get to the point where it's one step below wartime activity. It's what I used to do in Kandahar. This is disgusting. We are American citizens. We have our rights. We are not the enemy. We do not need to be followed around. We do not need to be led by the nose. All of us, every single one of us, white, black, red, yellow, brown, gay, straight, trans, immigrant, citizen, we have our rights. We want our rights. And the best way to do that is to get the flock out of Burbank and to do it now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Next, I would like to bring up Alessandra. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Hi. Hello, everyone. This is the second time I've ever spoken at the Police Commission meeting. My name is Alessandra. I am a 7-year resident of Burbank. I am deeply invested in my community, and that is why I'm here today to ask the Police Commission to consider asking council to end its contract with Flock surveillance cameras, following suit of other cities across the nation, but most close to home is South Pasadena, a city that just canceled its contract with Flock automatic license plate readers, which are very problematic for a variety of reasons. Even though I know that our police chief has said that BPD does not share information from Flock cameras with ICE. Flock, the company itself, can still share that information and that data, even if the city itself does not consent to that data being shared. There's also instances of Flock, the company, Flock abuse of tracking women who are seeking abortions, aiding domestic abuse, racist policing, and that is why I'm coming here as a citizen asking our city to divest from Flock cameras and to cancel the contract and to not renew automatic license plate readers in our city, which after a public records request, we found that after 55 million license plates that were scanned, only 25 felony arrests were led from ALPRs, which to me says that these surveillance systems in our city are not really reducing crime in a very meaningful statistical way. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. And with no additional in-person comments, do we have any calls on the line?
We have one caller on the line, name of Kyle, calling in for flock cameras.
Okay, sir. Caller, go ahead.
Commissioners, thank you, city staff and commissioners, for the time to speak. I want to speak as a concerned community member and a small business owner about getting flock out of Burbank. I'm urging the commission to recommend to council to end the current flock contract. Flock cameras are very easily hacked. There's a lot of good documentation online that with physical access to the unit, simply by pressing a button on the back and using codes that's widely available online, somebody can take over a flock camera in less than 30 seconds. So I have to ask, how is deploying a network of potentially vulnerable cameras actually making our community safer? Other cities have already canceled or walked away from flock contracts because of serious concerns about privacy, security, and lack of oversight. Why are we ignoring these warnings? The last thing our city needs is to be fighting more lawsuits that cost us, the taxpayers. I want to be very direct here when I say that the police department already has the largest share of the city's budget, yet as a city, we are cutting or failing to fund critical services like homeless shelters, while expanding or continuing contracts with Flock, Genetech, and Peregrine. Does anyone in this room even know how much we're paying all these companies? Have you even heard of all of these companies? And why haven't these partnerships been made clear to the public and disclosed? Because from the outside, it looks like we're writing blank checks to private surveillance companies while basic needs go unmet. It's important to remember that Flock's pricing will only continue to go up. The police have previously said at City Council that they view Flock as a critical tool. So why are we becoming dependent on a private company to do core public safety work? A private company with cameras that could be hacked in 30 seconds? A company that can change their pricing to whatever they want? Something they did in cities in Oregon, resulting in cities like Lincoln City ending their Flock contract, noting substantial rate increases. If it's a critical tool, are we prepared to pay whatever they charge next year? Because that starts to look less like a tool and more like a dependency, and even more like a ransom. I don't like the idea of being in a stranglehold from a faceless big tech company. And I think it's really disrespectful to our law enforcement officers to claim that they need a bunch of 480p cameras on poles around the city to do their job. I don't believe that's true. I believe our police officers are still capable of solving crimes without the Flock family of products. And then there's the data issues. This is sensitive information about our community and our community members that's being stored on Flock servers. Where are these servers? How long is the data stored? Who has access to the data? The city might control its own policies, but it does not control what this private company ultimately does with that data. And given Flock's history and the lawsuits they've faced, that should be a concern to everyone in this room. Those lawsuits are not unfounded, and they're on this very topic. So while you may have the inclination to brush me off, I urge you to please listen to me. We cannot control what Flock does with this data. So I'll end with this. Why is the best-funded city in our best-funded department in our city becoming increasingly reliant on a private, for-profit surveillance network of cameras that are easily hacked in under 30 seconds? Why are we working with a company with such a long track record of serious security, privacy, and cost concerns? And why are we prioritizing that over other services that actually benefit our community? Thank you so much for your time, commissioners. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about this.
Thank you very much for your public comment. And with no additional callers on the line, we will now close the public comment period. And now we're going to move on to commissioner responses to public comment. And we'll start with James.
Thank you. I'm going to hold the comments related to Flock to when we get into the discussion about it, but I appreciate everyone sharing that information. Specifically, I'm just really appreciating the work that you're doing, Mr. Pistante, about the internet crimes against children, and I'm fairly confident that by speaking this evening, I think the department has heard you. So I hope they consider taking you up on that. And I also want to encourage you to, if you haven't, I'm going to encourage you to participate in the next community the
Community Academy.
Thank you, the Community Academy, because it really gives a great insight in terms of how the department works as well, and that's really open for anyone. So the next time that comes up, it's really helpful to kind of know what's happening and what's going on as we engage, so we can learn where to best connect, who to connect with to bring ideas like this to life in the department. So thank you.
Michael?
I want to thank everybody for their comments this evening, and we'll be getting into it more a little bit later on the Flock.
Ann?
Ditto, Flock's a projected conversation for tonight. As to healthy habits, got your plug. I do think, obviously, this is very important. This is very timely. I think it's a good opportunity for us to take a look. Would love to get some of your literature at that, because we are constantly attempting to always work with our school district, which is probably in a state of flux at this moment. But anything that has to do with student safety is something that we are also concerned about. So I'd love to get I'm sure we would love to get some of your literature. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Ellman? Paul?
I'd also like to thank the representative from Healthy Habits. This is my second presentation and distinctively different of the saw his today. I think it's very interesting that he's educating us and hopefully the children in our police department on the tactics that are being used unbeknownst to us. It's not simply advertising anymore. I remember 40 years ago in college, some of the subtleties that we were taught in advertising, and now we've taken it to another whole level with the internet. So thank you for that. As for the flock cameras, I appreciate your interest. When this first came to light, Assemblymember Schultz actually called me to tell me what his thoughts were, and I am interested in seeing what the police department says, because I am concerned about how easily they are violated. They are that to me is a bigger concern than the actual use of them. I do think taking any felons off the road is a benefit, but the fact that if they can be violated, that's a concern. So I look forward to our police department's response to that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I will hold my conversations and comments in regards to flock after the presentation during discussion. And in regards to Mr. Festante, thank you so much for coming down today. Me and you have had a wonderful time getting to know each other and the wonderful work that you do. And thank you for coming down and sharing the work that you do. That's really important to child safety. Mr. Festante and I are going to be having a AI workshop at the Burbank Chamber on May 6th about AI and the safety of how it affects children. So if anyone in the community was interested, you're more than welcome to come. Thank you again, sir. And other than that, we're going to go and move on to item F, approval of minutes for the March 18th, 2026 meeting.
Motion to approve?
Oh, Paul makes a motion.
I'm sorry. Motion to approve?
Paul makes a motion. So can I get a second? Okay. Commissioner Elman seconds. And then can we go to roll call?
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coons?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Kakobian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. So now we're going to move on to item G, items of business. First item is presentation, discussion, and recommendations, if applicable, on department's use of automated license plate readers, also known as flock, in solving crimes and supporting citywide public safety goals. We'd like to welcome the department.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. First, I want to take a minute to thank you for your time, your volunteers. I appreciate that, being a parent volunteer myself. It takes a lot of time to do what you do. I appreciate it. All the people in the crowd, thank you for coming. Appreciate your concern about LPR. My name is Mark Stoll. I'm the captain of the Field Operations Division. I'm in charge of most of our public-facing units, including patrol, traffic, canine, air support, parking enforcement, crossing guards, and many others. I'm here tonight to talk to you about ALPR, to give you an overview about our history with the product, what it does, what it doesn't do, and answer any questions you might have that can hopefully dispel any concerns you may have, or address some of the concerns of the community members that have spoken. Do you want to?
Before you continue, I'm wondering if you want to, is there a handheld mic you might be able to use? You have the same problem that I do they're not built for us. So wondering if that might be a little bit easier. So that way the audience can hear you as
There's
well.
one right there.
I was born this way. I apologize.
No, I'm same boat. I hope you weren't born that way. But.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that one.
All right, thank you.
There you are.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I don't like standing behind a lectern. I do better when I move around, but for the sake of the cameras, I will stand here. If I look uncomfortable, I apologize. I'm not a gifted orator like the chief. So here's what we're going to talk about. I'll try not to read off the slides as I don't like when people do that, but I'm going to give you an overview of the ALPR, the history of our use here at Burbank PD, the investigative value, findings of the audits that we've done, and privacy safeguards that are built into the systems. First of all, what is ALPR, Automated License Plate Reader Cameras? They are cameras either mounted inside or on a police car or on a fixed location that are designed to capture images of vehicles and their license plates. They use technology to capture the license plate, convert it into searchable text, and they put it into a database. The systems are also designed to capture what might be termed vehicle fingerprints or vehicle characteristics such as make, model, color, blue, Toyota car, etc. It puts that into a database which is then searchable. What is collected? License plate number, obviously, date, time, and location of the camera, which are logged on the images that are captured, license plate image, and vehicle attributes, as previously noted, make, model, color, etc. What it doesn't capture, or what it's not designed to capture, is the occupant of the car. It does not have facial recognition, and generally they are designed to capture the rear of the car. What is not ALPR? It is not used for traffic enforcement. These are not automated enforcement systems like red light cameras, the new speed cameras that the city of LA just authorized. They don't do any type of enforcement they don't enforce anything. Basically, it builds a database and nothing happens unless there's human involvement to do some sort of a search. ALPR is not a live video feed. It takes images as cars go past, and it captures and stores those images. Again, noting my prior statement, it is not designed to capture images of drivers or passengers in the vehicle, and it does not and will not replace police investigations, legal standards, or officer judgment. Like I said previously, nothing happens unless an actual human being interacts with the system to look for a car related to some sort of crime. LPR vendors utilized by Burbank. We use Motorola Vigilant. In the past, when we started using these systems, it was a different vendor that got acquired, that turned into Motorola Vigilant. Those were roof-mounted ALPR cameras. We stopped using those several years ago. Those systems are also under the Vigilant Learn platform. People have done public records requests. That may be what it shows up as. Genetech AutoView, that's used by our LAS parking control. They use it mainly for electronic permits, for residential permit zones, and for time parking. We have access to it. We generally don't use it though. Axon, they manufacture body-worn cameras, tasers, in-car cameras. That has a dual lens in our in-car camera that not only captures video of traffic stops, but it also has a secondary camera that captures images of cars for ALPR purposes as the police cars pass by. Lastly, the elephant in the room, flock safety. We currently utilize flock safety fixed cameras. They are mounted on either traffic signal poles or light poles. They offer a variety of products. We only use their fixed ALPR cameras. They do offer gunshot detection, which uses AI to model the sound signature for gunshot detection, and they do offer streaming video and video management services. We do not use those, only the ALPR feature. We did a test and evaluation with Flock cameras and the Vigilant competitor product, and we found Flock to be the best, easiest to use, and the most robust system. Apologize for the small font on this. So this is what we currently have for ALPR, what the retention data is, and what our network sharing looks like. So for the Flock cameras, we have 57 fixed cameras currently. As mentioned earlier, we started out with 3 during a test phase back in 2024. We had great success outside the Empire Center in investigating and solving retail crime stemming from the stores there, and we've expanded that to 57 locations. Retention, the data is stored for 30 days before it's automatically overwritten, unless we actually physically select a car and put it into our Axon digital evidence vault, where it retains a retention to whatever the case category is, anywhere from 2 to 25 years, from misdemeanor crimes up to homicides, where it could be a permanent storage. Network sharing, I'll get to the list later, but we share with about 300 agencies locally in the LA region and the state of California. We do not share with outside the state. We do not share with federal agencies. And Flock has created the system where you cannot share outside the state or with federal agencies. One of the things with Flock is they're a technology company. They're evolving their technology. They're changing parameters as time changes, as laws change, depending on jurisdictions. So the system is constantly changing and being improved. Axon, we have 32 dash cameras, as mentioned earlier, and we are currently testing 15 fixed location ALPR cameras. They are developing a competitor product to Flock, and we're actively testing those. We are not platform, we're agnostic to the platform, so we are trying to use the best product that will assist our officers in maximizing public safety, regardless of who it is. Retention on that is set to 365 days for those images, which is set in our policy. As you can see, Flock obviously has a much lower retention, and we currently do not share data with Axon. Genetech, there's 6 mobile cameras on the LAS parking control, and we do not share any data from that. Who is authorized to access the system? Police officers, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, detectives, dispatch, and our crime analyst. That's all who is able to access it. Then we are able to authorize any other entity to access information from our ALPR system, creating a shared network. That's through the Flock system. And one of the things I want to mention with that is that was one of the big selling points with Flock is we have Flock, San Fernando has Flock, Glendale has Flock, Pasadena, South Pasadena, many of the San Gabriel agencies. So if there's something that happens here, we can potentially locate the car somewhere else to either prevent another crime or to help capture the people to solve our crime, or both. The network effect is a big selling point of the system. I'll kind of gloss over this, I don't want to read it, but authorized police employees can search the database to locate vehicle detections through any of the networks that we have access to. Shared networks. Flock, we have 370 agencies across California that are currently in our sharing network. Axon, we currently don't share. We're working on a beta test sharing with Glendale and Beverly Hills. And Genetech, we do not share. History. So we began using the roof-mounted ALPRs as far back as 2011. They were funded through a UWASI grant, and we had rooftop-mounted units on all of our patrol cars. Over the years, the funding sources have changed. The efficacy of the systems kind of degraded as the vendors changed. And we found that the cars are only effective if they're out driving around. So if you have 28 patrol cars and only 10 of them are on the road, you're only capturing less than 50% of your available data. And one of the things we noticed is we were able to use other means to track cars away from crimes, and it was great if it passed by one of our patrol cars, but they're not always out there. So with the network of fixed cameras, when we have the path of travel, when it goes past our LPR camera, we're able to get the license plate, if it has license plates, and help solve the crimes much faster, almost instantaneously sometimes. 2023, we began to look for an alternate solution after the roof-mounted car ALPRs were not meeting our needs. We tested Flock and Vigilant Solutions. We found Flock to be a much better platform as far as user ease of use, mobile app and the quality of the reads they captured, plus the network effect that I talked about earlier. We then expanded from 3 flock cameras around the Empire Center to 57 citywide. 2024, Axon developed their Fleet 3 camera, so we deployed those with the purpose of replacing our Fleet 2, which was only a front-facing, quote-unquote, dash camera to capture video, to the dual-lens Fleet 3, which does ALPR plus video. Last year, Axon developed their, what they call light post and outpost, which are fixed ALPR solutions as a competitor to Flock, and we're currently doing a test and evaluation with them. These are the laws surrounding ALPR use in California. All of our policies and procedures align with these laws. The laws they go back to 2015 that delineate what we can and can't do, such as have a policy, which we do have, using the data for legitimate law enforcement purposes, maintaining access logs, periodic audits, and having security safeguards. Our policies, we have the ALPR policy in place. Flock ALPR data is in our online transparency portal. All the searches are logged and audited. Flock data is only saved for 30 days before it's overwritten or lost to the computer Ethernet. And then the Axon and Genetech is saved for 365 days. And we no longer contribute any data to Vigilant. Our policy says we did annual audits. This year we changed that to monthly audits just based on the increased scrutiny on ALPR. So Senate Bill 54, ALPR privacy, says we can't use these resources for civil immigration enforcement, which we don't do, we've never done. We don't have the authority to enforce any type of immigration law. Restrict sharing with certain data, mainly to ICE, which we don't do. And then we maintain a focus on public safety responsibility. That is our main goal with the Burbank Police Department. We're focused on public safety for the residents and the business owners in this community. Our practice, we only use it for criminal investigations, public safety related needs. There's no evidence that any of our people have done any sort of access related to any type of immigration enforcement. And we're only limited to California law enforcement, which is what we do. Some history about Flock. As noted earlier, they're a technology company. They're always changing, updating their software, making it better, addressing any vulnerabilities. In 2025, they had a national lookup feature that they disabled for all California agencies to comply with the law. They blocked out-of-state agencies from creating data sharing relationships with in-state entities, so we cannot share data with them. And then in June of last year, the existing out-of-state sharing relationship was removed with agency consent. So we can only look up California agencies' data. We can't look at outside. Federal sharing controls, they were hard disabled for California organizations. There's no national lookup with federal agencies. California agencies are blocked from the national lookup. And we cannot request or query federal agency data for Flock cameras. One thing I want to note is Flock does not have any contract with DHS or ICE. The only federal agencies that they contract with are U.S. Postal Service, the VA hospitals, and the U.S. National Parks. So our audit for Flock 2025, there was 6.5 million investigative queries by California law enforcement agencies. What that means is that every agency of those 370 over the course of a year did a total of 6.5 million lookups. There were 0 out-of-state agency searches found. There were, as noted in many other public forums from other cities, 2 searches conducted by the VA hospital police in Loma Linda that happened in 2025. And when you look at what happened, Loma Linda itself has Flock cameras. The VA office in Loma Linda has Flock cameras, so it looks like it was a configuration error on Flock's part. Those 2 searches were related to a critical missing endangered veteran and a suicidal veteran, not for any type of immigration or other enforcement. And one of the things to note is, like, what is a search? What are they looking for? When you do a search, typically it's for a license plate and it just queries the database. It's not like they're going into our big bucket of data and sifting through it to find whatever. They're looking for that 7-character license plate number typically. So if you look at the data there, 0.0003% of investigations were related to anything outside the state, which was the VA hospital searches. These are our stats year to date: 60 million scans by flock cameras, 29 million by Axon. Custom hot list alerts, 363. Those are vehicles that we've identified as being involved in some sort of crime. We're able to add the license plate to the hot list. So if it drives past one of our camera, it sends an alert to all of our officers and dispatch so they can react accordingly. 161 stolen vehicle alerts, 10 felony vehicle alerts. A felony vehicle is something where either we or another agency has put that license plate in the stolen vehicle system as a wanted vehicle for some sort of felony crime. Stolen license plate alerts, 12,000. Last year, our employees conducted 58,000 investigative inquiries, which average out to about 4,800 a month. There's some success stories. I could go on and on about success stories. These license plate camera readers, I know people in the audience or people that have gone to other meetings say they don't solve crime, they don't prevent crime. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. They eliminate a significant amount of investigative time that our people have to spend where, I'll give you an example. We had a hit and run on a bicyclist that happened a couple of years ago. Person was killed, unfortunately. We had video of a car involved driving all over town, and all we had was a picture of a black car. It took our entire investigative detail, 20-plus people, 4 to 8 hours each of doing neighborhood canvassing to find a picture of the car that helped us ultimately find that vehicle. So you're looking at 80 to 120 hours of investigative time. Our whole bureau trying to find out who killed this poor man when it would have driven by probably 3 flock cameras that day. We could have solved the crime within hours. Some notable ones: a home invasion, homicide that probably would have never been solved except for a license plate reader that identified 2 suspects, one later arrested in Houston, Texas, both convicted, sentenced to prison. Another homicide in 2022, our ALPR data was critical to identifying the suspect vehicle, led to the location of 2 suspects. A robbery at the Empire Center. Suspect vehicle was identified via flock cameras. The license plates they had swapped out, but we had pictures of it before committing the crime. And we traced it back to Northern California, which the network effect there is very important because now we're not looking for it here because we know it's up in the Bay Area. And we can coordinate with agencies up there. Otherwise, we're on a wild goose chase for who knows how long, potentially never because it has the wrong license plates on the car. 2025 robbery of an elderly victim with Alzheimer's who was assaulted and robbed of their jewelry by a sophisticated jewelry theft scheme. Within a very short period of time, we had the license plate, entered it into the felony vehicle system, and it was picked up in Beverly Hills. Suspects were detained and arrested. And without the ALPR system, none of these cases would have either been solved or would have taken significantly longer for them to be solved. Here's some case clearance or other information, and this is just data that I've been keeping. 289 cases cleared by arrest, 224 leads generated, 237 arrests, 89 stolen vehicles, and 6 guns recovered. So I want to address some of the other information people have brought up about Flock easily being hacked. If you actually do a deep dive into the research, that never happened. A camera was taken illicitly, and that camera was never on the Flock network, and its software was accessed and altered, but that's not a camera that was on their network. There have been some vulnerabilities identified, but this city runs on Microsoft, and they have vulnerabilities that come out every month. The companies address them, fix them. Flock's never been hacked. As to the where's our data kept, it's kept in the cloud. Most of our systems are in the cloud now. Our CAD dispatch system is in the cloud. It's on Amazon Gov Service, same as Flock. All of our Axon data, it's in the cloud on Microsoft Azure. So as to whether it prevents crime, I absolutely will tell you that solves crimes faster and it prevents crimes, especially when we put a car on the custom hot list and it's driving through town. Most of the people that we deal with reoffend. And if we can take them off the street and prevent another citizen in our community from being victimized, that's a win for us. This is a public safety issue. I understand the people's concerns. I've been doing this for 26 years. There is no tool that we have had, no technology that compares to what this does to make our job more easy to do, more efficient, and be more precise with what we do. Imagine if we get a call at the Empire Center of a black car involved in a theft. There's a ton of black cars out there. Which one do you want the officers to stop? If we have the black car with the license plate that our license plate readers found, we stop that person and we don't bother the people that aren't involved. It allows for precision policing. And another thing that I want to talk about for people's concern in the community is probably the high 90s, I would say 98, 99% of the people that we are looking at on these license plate readers do not live in this city. They come here to victimize and exploit our residents and our businesses. And to me, that's a big deal. And if we're going to use this technology, we're going to leverage it to do our jobs better and more efficiently, then that's what we're going to do. I have nothing further.
Thank you so much, Captain, for that presentation and thoughtful insights. I would love to open up to the commission for questions for the Captain. And I can start off with James. I had to.
There's a lot to cover here, and this I really appreciate your presentation, Captain. I just want to start by acknowledging that with everything that's been in the news and the media, the things that we've experienced both locally and what we're experiencing nationally and actually internationally, a lot of this information can be overwhelming and frustrating, and then it often turns to agitation. We see all of us will act out in one way or another. So I just want to acknowledge that there's a lot of information that everybody's taking on. The folks that are using the technology, that want to use the technology, the folks that are opposed to the technology, it's overwhelming. The information that's coming through. I'm thinking it might be useful, let me find my notes where it started. I'm thinking about starting with the comments that were made from the public and everything, if that's okay. And we can walk through those, and maybe it'd be useful if we can all open it up as a discussion. I can name what I heard, and maybe we can start there. Sure. And then we can dive deeper into the presentation. So one of the things that has me concerned, I heard from one of our public comments, this came from Mr. Stage, about how not only wanting flock out of Burbank, but the you all versus the rest of us. I've got some real strong feelings about flock systems. I've got some real strong feelings about data as well. I'll make some comments later on. When I first became aware of a system about 15 years ago, a company called Palantir, which is in the news now, but this is nothing new. If any of us have a cell phone, where our location is being tracked, I actually use the Google timeline so I can figure out my mileage for where all my trips for work and everything. So it's and that's tracking just by sitting in my pocket. So I just want to acknowledge that there's a lot of data that's being collected on a regular basis about us all of the time. And the latest thing is around flock. I would say it's not even around Alper Systems. It's really around Flock specifically as the company and the things that we've heard in the news. So we're equally as concerned about this. I appreciate one of the commenters that was talking about the 25 felony arrests, and I appreciate the data that you provided. And I also want to lift up, I don't know if there's a way to tie Alper's data to the data that's on the department's website, but I know that the department does a great job of reporting out its crime statistics, and I know that I use that regularly, and you shared it in your presentation as well, so I appreciate that. So it's probably more than, as you identified, the data has been used for more than 25 felony arrests, is my understanding based on the information that you had shared. The hacking piece, I appreciate that. Again, I'm going to dive further into the liability issues associated with the systems, but I just wanted to acknowledge those comments, and that's where we wanted to bring that in. I'm going to open it up to the rest of the commission, though, so we can all dive in on those comments, and then we can continue from there.
Commissioner Coombs, real quick.
Yeah.
We also have the flock rep that can get even more granular as a subject matter expert if you have additional questions that come up. Something
Fantastic.
that the captain might not be able to respond to, especially when we're talking about the vulnerabilities of the system, kind of the back end
That's fantastic. I appreciate that, and we will definitely go there in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, and thank you, James. For now, let's focus on questions for the captain, and then we can have discussion afterwards. Is that okay? Michael?
This may fall into that category. I understand that the city, correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that the city has a contract with FLAC,
Yes, the police department does.
and is there a term limit on that contract?
We have a 1 year with the option to renew. A lot of cities have 3 or 5 years. We do a 1 year contract.
And I guess that information would be available as far as public record, the contract itself.
I believe so.
Correct. The contract will be coming up for renewal this July.
For when?
July.
July, okay. The data that is collected, even though, from my understanding, it stays, from what you said, stays within the state of California. Who is the actual owner of the data?
We are. We own the data. Flock manages it. It's just like our body camera. We own it. They have to manage it. It's a cloud system. It's all managed. I won't say nothing, but almost everything is cloud-based these days. Nothing, or it's moving away from being on-premises server-stored data.
I don't want to go too deep here on this, but the cloud is based in,
The cloud. It's in the internet. It's Amazon Web Service.
Yeah.
Amazon Web Service GovCloud. It's where we keep our CAD data. They have servers.
could be domestic or international.
I can't answer that question.
Are you familiar with, so Microsoft, for the most part, if you have a desktop, or even an Apple product? So for Apple, they have their version. Microsoft is called OneDrive. So all your information resides in a cloud, an online web-based portal that allows you to access that data from anywhere. That manages your data, but ultimately it's managed by the provider. And
The
then
cloud
for
is residing in numerous data centers.
Yeah.
That's where the cloud is.
It's in a server somewhere.
I don't want to make any snide comments, but I can see a huge benefit for having it, having Flock. The in making the city safer in being able to control crime and solve crime. But there is also just a huge amount of problems with the data that's being collected, and I'm not sure you mentioned something earlier about no information is shared with the DHS. But DHS made a statement saying that, yeah, we did. I'm not,
Mr. Chair,
when there's information
Yes.
that's going around,
Gina?
it's,
Hold on.
did you want questions to be asked and the
Yeah.
discussion was going to come later?
Absolutely,
right?
'cause
Is there
we're-
a question?
Yeah,
maybe I can, when we're looking at this, I'm not sure that our group here tonight has enough information to do anything.
well, I have to stop.
But-
I really appreciate your comment, but we'll have to wait until the other commissioners respond to Captain Stoll's presentation before we have any discussion in regards to this topic.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
So are we allowed to comment on what we heard from our two, we
No,
can't say
just
anything
questions for the
about those?
captain.
Okay, good, got it. I really appreciate all of the information. For me, it cleared up a lot. It also made me ask more questions. I think the concern is, as a citizen of Burbank, my concern is there misuse? Is there potential misuse? And also, you mentioned the post office and VA.
Yes.
Okay. What was that in reference to, and why those agencies?
Those are the only federal agencies that
That have
have
the,
contracts with flock safety. Why
Okay.
they're the only ones,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, interesting, raises questions. I think that's it, but I'm going to think of something else, I know it.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Ehrman?
Well, it's just data. And there's nothing harmful about data unless it's abused. And in today's news, there's a story about
Michael, do you have any questions for the captain?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a story about a Costa Mesa police officer who has been arrested for abuse of information on the flock system. So my question is this, because employees who log on to the system here in Burbank, what are the safeguards that none of the information is used for non-law enforcement reasons?
Well, you have to put in a case number, a reason for the search, and it's a NIBRS code, whether it's a burglary, robbery, and we do audits to verify that people are acting accordingly. Here's the problem, is you have humans, and humans sometimes make bad choices. I read the article about the individual from Costa Mesa. He probably should have never been a policeman, and luckily he's not anymore for those reasons. So this is the crux of the matter when you deal with people. People are people, and they're going to do things that sometimes they shouldn't do.
I'm from an IT background, and I know that there's data, but you put in the safeguards, the guardrails into your system to try to prevent abuse or capture the wrongful use of the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Paul?
I had 3 questions going into this, and I think the captain answered them. My first question was, and I hope this came from the public, was what is it that they offer that we couldn't do ourselves? And I think the captain referred to that as the network. And so I believe that that's the value of being part of the network, just as is our radio communication and our dispatch. How safe is it from hacking the cloud? I'm concerned about that, I think, as everybody is, but I'm just as concerned as that about the cameras on my house, which are, I guess based in China. So if someone in China wants to look at my backyard, they can do it. But I think that's the world we live in. And last but not least, the out-of-town follow-up. The chief, a couple of months ago, I asked him about the attractive nuisance, which is the Empire Center. He made reference to his experience with the Americana. People come to our town, they commit crimes, and they leave. It would be almost impossible, I think, for us to follow up if we didn't have this network. So I don't think I came in here blindly supporting it. I think I came in here with legitimate questions, and I thank you for answering them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Captain Stoll, thank you so much for that presentation. I know that I got a chance to visit you at the department one time, and I got a chance to see Flock, and I got to see that what it was specifically targeting license plates, and I also have done independent research on my own in regards to Flock. I understand it is an important tool, and I understand the public sentiments in regards to surveillance and safety. But from what I understand is, I'm assuming that, not assuming, but from what you were saying during that presentation was, BPD does not participate in anything outside of just what is Burbank related, correct?
I don't know that I understand your question.
No, what I mean is that, in regards to the tool that you're using, it only pertains to what's happening in Burbank, anything outside of Burbank.
If a crime is committed here and we're able to use the technology that we have to solve it, it may lead us out of the city.
Right.
But if a crime happens in Beverly Hills, we're not going to investigate that here.
Right.
There are times when there are crime flyers that are sent to us from other agencies, and we may put that license plate in our custom hot list. So if it comes here to victimize our community, we'll be aware of it and can react accordingly. But that's it.
Right. So just so, I guess, just for the community, it's just, you guys have access to data that's a part of a big network that just allows you to just identify possible, concerning, I guess, vehicles or.
So I'll give an example. We had a residential burglary up on the hillside a couple months ago. The description we had was an electric blue sedan. No picture, no anything. Within 3 minutes, I was able to identify a possible suspect vehicle that had driven towards the freeway on-ramp. Using the system, we were able to find out that that car was in Pasadena about 15 minutes later, and then in South Pasadena. I sent our police helicopter to South Pasadena, who, when they got there, saw the vehicle actively burglarizing a home in South Pasadena. They coordinated with South Pasadena. There was a pursuit. They crashed into several cars. They apprehended 1, possibly 2 suspects. That's a case we would have never had any leads on other than this blue, who turned out to be a Nissan, nor would we have captured them within less than 2 hours. That's the value of the system. For people that say it doesn't solve crimes, it doesn't prevent crimes, it does. 26 years I've been doing this. This is the most powerful tool that we have. And I get it. People have concerns. I'm not immune to that. I understand it. They're worried about being tracked. These cameras only take a picture at points in time. So it's not tracking anyone per se. It can't find out where you live. There's more information available on the internet from data hacks of data brokers and everyone else than will ever be available. None of these license plates are tied to the DMV system other than stolen vehicles. So you would have to separately access a DMV system, which the guy in Costa Mesa did, which he shouldn't have done, to find out where those license plates were registered to, which is a crime. So I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say misinformation, but misunderstanding about what actually happens, what it does, what it doesn't do, and how it benefits us for the people in the community. And like I said, most, if not all of these searches are people that don't live here. They're coming here to victimize people, to steal catalytic converters, to break into businesses, to break into homes, to steal cars. I'll give you another example. We had 2 work vans that got stolen. Imagine you wake up and your work van's gone, your whole livelihood gone, like a thief in the night. Through the technology we have available and the flock cameras, we were able to identify a car that had followed both of those work vans out of town. We put that license plate in the custom hot list, and within a week, it alerted that it was in town. Officers were nearby, they see it. Lo and behold, it's following a white work van. They go to stop both of them, there's a short pursuit, 2 people arrested. We were able to get a guy's van back with all his tools, his whole livelihood, before he even knew it was gone. That's the value of the system. Real people, real victims, real success. Trust me, I'm avidly against red light cameras, speed cameras, or anything that takes the human element out of enforcement. You have to have a human being interact with this system to get anything out of it.
Thank you very much.
It's been our best tool that we've ever had.
No, I really appreciate it, and thank you, because we get to see how you guys utilize it and what it means to the department. And I don't have any further questions, but I do want to open it up to.
I do have a few more questions. Yeah,
Sure,
yeah. I
sure,
wanted,
sure.
that was
Fire
just
away.
the first round. I want to dive into some specifics. So,
Yeah.
and if you need assistance with this, please bring it in and everything. Caveat I want to say is that I appreciate how Burbank is using this as a tool. My questions are really focused on what's behind the system that's in the tool that Burbank doesn't necessarily. We can make a decision as to whether we're going to use the system, but the questions that I have go more towards the system. So please feel free to phone a friend if you want to on this one. I think there's a representative that's here that might be able to help with that. You talked about 4 different data systems. There's the Flock Axon, the Genetic Auto View, and the Motorola Vigilant system. Are each of those separate databases, or do they all feed into the same database?
They're all separate. They're independent companies that maintain their own databases.
Okay, that helps me out. And then you'd already talked about how people get access to the system and what's required to access the system locally. Within Burbank, who can search the Alper databases? What personnel have the authority to search the database here?
It was on one of the slides. It's the sworn police officers, so police officers, detectives, sergeants, lieutenants, captains.
Okay.
Dispatch, or our one crime analyst.
Great. And you had already mentioned that there's specific information that's required in order to access those databases. And I'm assuming, is access to all 4 of those databases similar? Well, 3. One of them doesn't get used, I guess, by the police department, and that's the Genetic Auto View, or Gentech Auto View, is that correct?
Genetech is
Genetech.
for the parking enforcement.
Okay.
We can look at the reads. Generally, we go to the LAS people to see if
Gotcha.
they have a particular license plate that they may have scanned. Yeah, they all do different things. They have different technology, and different people have different access.
Okay.
Generally, our dispatch and crime analysts, our dispatch has access to Flock. They don't really have access to the other stuff because
Okay.
they're not going to use it in
Okay.
an investigative capacity. It's more of a real-time, something just occurred, they look it up really
Right.
quick.
Did you mention that the Motorola Vigilant system, is that still in use, or is that defunct now? It sounded like it was a system that was used before but is not used anymore.
We don't have any ALPR cameras from Motorola Vigilant.
Okay.
But we still have access to the platform.
Gotcha.
There are other cities that do use it in lieu of Flock, either because they have historical ties to the platform or they just like it better.
Okay.
Every agency is going to have different needs
Okay.
and different wants.
You described in the presentation a case where I believe it was a vehicle that was identified in Northern California. I think that was in the presentation.
Yes, it was a robbery that happened at the Empire Center.
Right.
And when we queried it, the next day it was already being scanned in Northern California. So
So was it like the custom hot list? You created that here locally?
no,
For-
this
is
would
a different
be,
situation.
so we had the license plate, you put it in the system, and it has the ability through your shared network to say it was in Burbank. Now it's in Northern California.
Gotcha.
So there's a network of cameras on the 580 and the various freeways that the state has paid for, that the CHP is in charge of, and that's one of the cameras that is up in the Bay Area that
Gotcha.
it got scanned on.
So it's a question, but I just want to confirm it. So Burbank can search the system and it'll go outside of Burbank. And if you create a hot list, if you put somebody on a hot list here, will it show up, like if they pop up in another location, will it show up on your hot list here that you've created?
There's some nuances to that. The individual officer can create their own cameras that will send them alerts from our custom hot list
Locally in Burbank?
or other cities
Oh,
that
okay.
allow us access to that.
Gotcha.
So for instance, I have all of our cameras, the Burbank airport cameras, and some of the cameras on the Glendale border that will send me
Right.
alerts. I don't need the cameras from Glendale on the 210 and Lowell.
Right.
Don't need them.
Okay.
Now, our custom hot list do not show up if it's in Glendale to Glendale PD.
Right.
Glendale PD's custom hot list does not show up if it's in our city to our people.
Right.
Now, if they put the vehicle as a felony vehicle, or if it's a stolen vehicle, Amber Alert, Ebony Alert, Silver Alert, etc., those will alert us.
Okay.
Because that's tied to the DMV database, which it has an interface with for those specific uses.
So another jurisdiction could put Burbank cameras on their hot list.
Theoretically, yes.
Theoretically, okay. Yeah, that's the piece where I was starting to suggest that people can go outside of their systems and their local jurisdiction. So other agencies, we control locally who has access to the data here, but we don't necessarily control the other 300 agencies that may access the cameras and the data here, is kind of what I'm getting at.
We can allow them or restrict them.
Okay.
That custom hot list from their hot list that was on our camera, we wouldn't get alerted to it. But they
Right.
would get an alert that, hey, this car's in Burbank. And if it is, they may call us and say, hey, can you go look for this car?
Okay. This is one where this goes outside a little bit. I work in a medical related area, and about 10 years ago we started implementing electronic health records. And one of the things that we ran into, without getting into names of organizations or anything, there was an issue where the company was marketing how valuable it was for them to have access to the data, because then they could use it to compile and find out information about medical diagnoses and that type of a thing. And the department I work for said no. We have a server that's located locally in California that we have access to, and then there's a second remote server in case something happens in California where it's damaged. But the company maintains it. Well, maintains parts of it, but the company doesn't actually have access to our data. What I'm getting at is that the data is not actually in the cloud. The data is actually, as Romick had said, in a server somewhere or multiple servers. Do you know who has access to that data in those different servers around the country or wherever they may be? I'm guessing
We can have the flock rep answer that question.
that would be perfect, and we can go there because I've got some questions for them as well. Thank you.
Great. Just real quickly, while we get the flock rep on, I think it's also important to state, I was reviewing some of the policy because what keeps coming up are those guardrails, and the important piece here is the safeguarding people's information or the organization's information. And there is policy that completely outlines, codifies what it is we can and we cannot do. So just right here, policy 812, protected information. And the purpose of this policy is to provide guidelines for the access, transmission, release, security of protected info by members of this department. And the policy addresses the protected information that is used in day-to-day operation of the department and not public records information covered in the records maintenance and release. I'm not even going to go into a deeper dive on this, but ultimately for us to be able to access information, it's kind of what the captain already alluded to. You have to have a need to know and a right to know.
Right.
And then when you're accessing certain state, local, federal systems, there are policies that govern that. Every year, all sworn members or anyone who has access, not even sworn, professional staff as well, have to take a yearly and annual test and have to be successful in that test. The records administrator is responsible for managing and ensuring that everyone is certified, and then there are continuous audits, not only done by us, but also the FBI and other entities to ensure that it is used legally and responsibly, and even including ethically. I mean, I say ethically because the incident that we keep alluding to or referencing where this Costa Mesa officer used it for his own benefit, for identifying where his mistress, his ex-wife, his girlfriend, or whomever it was unethical.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it was also illegal.
Yeah.
So it is completely outlined within our policies. And then it goes in a deeper dive detail that there are there are consequences for those actions. And specifically, there's penal codes. It is a misdemeanor, could be potentially a felony depending on the access and what happened.
Totally makes sense.
Excuse me, Chief, when you were mentioning that, as the data flows, is there an audit by an third party, I guess, or the state, that is responsible for checking to see how that flows?
For our records, yes, there is. And the systems, I don't even understand it. It's outside my area of expertise, but some of those systems, the Criminal Justice Information System, CJIS, the Justice Data Interface Controller, JADIC, which I'm assuming Mr. Coombs might be familiar with some of these systems, or at least the names, the acronyms of, but those are monitored by outside entities.
Which may be the government or may be a private company or?
It's not a private company.
DOJ?
State, there you go. Department of Justice, yeah.
So here's the deeper dive, and where I'm hoping that our representative from Flock can help us out with this. And before we dive into the details of it, would you mind sharing with us who you are, your name, and who you are?
Sure. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
All right, great. I can't see you, so I'm sorry. I can't see who's talking. My apologies. But so good evening, everyone. My name is Kerry McCormick. I'm on the public affairs team at Flock Safety. So happy to be with you here this evening.
You've had your hands full lately.
Yep. So normally I cover the East Coast, but I'm actually pinch hitting for my colleague today, so I don't get to interface with California a lot. But we've been working hard to ensure that we fully understand and respect lively conversations around public safety technology, but we want to make sure that the facts are out there as a part of that conversation.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working to do.
Kerry, I appreciate that. My name's James, and I'm one of the commissioners here. So earlier, one of the questions I asked was talking about the different data systems that we have. So we were able to clarify that Flock is just one of multiple different data systems that we use. So I'm going to go straight to it. There were in the news recently, there was information about the partnership with Claude and Anthropic, along with Palantir, who I had named earlier. Flock maintains its databases, I'm assuming, and then Flock has policies and procedures, and just like we have local policies and procedures around who can access data, I'm assuming that Flock also has both access to the same data and policies and procedures around accessing that data, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just, it's all outlined in our terms and conditions, which are publicly accessible online. So happy to send those along to be reviewed after the meeting. So the long story short of it is, number one, explicitly in our terms and conditions, our customers own their data hard stop. Within that context, Flock has two provisions in which it would ever work with our customer to access that data. The first one is for the regular provision of the service, so essentially to provide the service successfully to our customers. And the second one is to fix any errors. So while the cameras are extremely accurate, if at any point, and generally this is initiated by the customer, there is an issue with a camera, whether it's not pulling reads or there's a question about accuracy of a read, we can work with our customers to access that data to mitigate a problem or a mistake. So those are the two provisions outlined in our terms of service in which Flock would engage with our customers' data.
Thank you. Does Flock use any AI tools?
We yes, in the tools, we have AI learning that works on essentially what the officer, and forgive me, I can't see the, is it Captain?
Yes.
Yes.
Captain. Okay, what the captain was discussing on the vehicle identifiers. So what that is limited to is make, model, color, and distinctive features like, a bike rack on the back of the vehicle. So it has a tool in which it can identify those for specific reasons because, and your officers can tell you better than I can, but at times individuals will either remove or switch plates, or, and this happens a lot, for example, with hit and runs, a victim will only see a certain part of the plate or won't catch the plate, but they'll say it was a blue Chevy SUV with a bike rack. So that the AI tool allows for the identifying of those elements. But as Captain mentioned, it does not do facial recognition. It does not do personally identifiable information or anything of that nature.
Are those tools proprietary to Flock, or does Flock work with other companies to provide those to use those AI tools?
Yeah, internal to Flock, correct.
Internal to Flock, okay. And is it safe to assume that the data management that Flock uses is very similar to the data management, what we were talking about here in terms of who has access to it, how it's controlled, how it's maintained? Is that correct?
So I'm trying to think back on exactly the conversation, but what I will say, so the data is stored in the AWS cloud, correct? Everything the captain said was correct.
Okay.
And one clarifying point, all of the servers are located within the United States of America, not internationally.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Thank you, James. Any further questions before we move on to discussion?
In individual contracts between cities and Flock, is everything stipulated in the contract, even though there are laws, SB 34, et cetera, about don't do this, don't?
So was that to me? Sorry, Commissioner, I don't want to.
To everybody, yes, you and the captain.
I'm happy to answer that. Flock is 100% bound by each state's law that we operate in. So the short answer is absolutely, as your department is bound by California law, we are too.
Thank you very much.
Actually, one quick clarifying question. I'm from Narbe and I, Commissioner Hartunian and I were talking a few meetings ago about an incident where we were having coffee and a vehicle came down the street with ALPR cameras on it. That was not a law enforcement vehicle. It was for a tow recovery service or something like that. Does Flock contract with any vehicle recovery services?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can ask our team to make sure of that, but not that I'm aware of.
Just like the contracts in the system is set up for law enforcement entities to share information with each other. I don't think we can answer it right now because you might not have that information, but I'm wondering whether that information is available to any businesses that would be involved in vehicle recovery or anything like that.
Well, what I can for sure definitively tell you though is all of our private customers do not have access into any law enforcement databases. That is only strictly preserved for sworn law enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, James. And thank you, Captain Stoll, for answering our questions. So I'm going to open up this conversation for discussion.
We can all jump in. I think we've all got some opinions and things to share as well.
We can start with Paul.
I think a lot of concerns were brought up, and I think they were all answered adequately. So I'm actually pretty pleased.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner McKenna, since we have the rep on here, there had been a question as far as the vulnerability of the system. I think who best to answer that real quick, if you don't mind?
Thank you, Chief.
To
Yep.
give a little bit of insight in that.
Sure.
Yes, I'm more than happy to. To be very clear on this, and again, I'll send up some follow-up information so y'all can read thoroughly into this as well. Flock's systems, our customers' data, our servers have never been hacked hard stop. We are well aware that individuals on the internet that do not have cyber backgrounds have gotten a hold of our cameras and taken them apart. Our cameras are in the public right of way. So while it is illegal, in theory, and we hope this does not happen, in theory, an individual could get their hands on one of our cameras. The individual took it apart in a YouTube video, but as the individual themselves noted in the video, never accessed customer data, never accessed our servers. So we really want to clarify the fact that those critical components that we think of when you think of a hack would be your customer data, would be your servers, would be all those internal systems, have never been breached. Now, no system is perfect, and we are, anytime an issue is brought up to our company, we take it very, very seriously. And I always encourage folks to read our blog, because we actually, when we identify issues, we always put it out on our blog. So we're proactive about identifying when we've encountered an issue and what we've done to rectify it. But what I think is really important in this conversation is to operate, again, under those facts. And those facts are that, and the evidence supports that our internal systems, customer data, servers have never been breached.
Thank you very much.
Oops.
Thank you, Chief, for asking that question.
Mr. Ellman?
Well, I think we're doing it right here in Burbank. I believe the guardrails and the safeguards are in place. As the captain mentioned, human beings are human beings, and not everybody is perfect. But, the first time I heard about Flock systems was with the Brown University active shooter and the MIT professor who was murdered. And that was basically the cases were resolved because of Flock information. So as long as it doesn't get abused, we'll see where this ride takes us.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Ann?
Look, we all know this is a really hot topic. Pages and pages. I think that I think that public concern is not just gonna go away. I think that we keep hearing two things. Kind of heard them tonight. One, ICE information getting into the wrong hands, be it a government agency or another. And the other one is the notion that we're being spied on, we're being watched, we're being observed constantly. We already are. That's not meant to be an excuse. I just don't know. I don't know where to lie. I came with lots of concerns tonight, and I still have a couple.
You want to share them? Do you want to share them?
Well, one is, what could happen? Could something be hacked? Yeah, somebody climbed up and took a camera off, and maybe they didn't do it right. Maybe there's another way to hack it, to get the information. I also worry about if the cameras, for instance, can follow a car. Is it just like get their picture here, the next camera gets their picture there? Is it the idea of being able to follow a specific car? Because that then goes to the conversation of, are we being watched?
That was answered.
That was
We can only
answered by
track
the
the
captain.
route.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I missed that. That's all.
Thank you, Ann. Michael?
Yeah, this question is for Mr. McCormick. There are a number of communities who have either dropped out or not renewed contracts. And you're probably the right man to ask.
Michael, I just want to let you know this is
What are the
discussion. We're no longer asking questions to.
If he has a question, you might want to.
What do you,
You mentioned-
okay.
I thought that was the.
Well, we're still on the agenda item, so
So, Mr. Chair, it's up to you how you want to run the meeting. So if you would like to let him ask a question, you can. It's really your meeting to run.
I appreciate it, Gina. I can, if you have a brief question, go for it. Yeah, you can go and ask your brief question.
One more time.
Oh, you can ask your question.
Okay, good. Going back to the hesitation that they had or decline the service, what was the issue that came up or why? Pasadena is one and San Jose is another, but there's other cities in I think Antioch is one, yeah?
Yeah, so I can speak just kind of generally, and I think it's important to note in the context too. So the vast majority of our customers, last year alone, I think it was 925 of our customers that had renewals up, renewed or signed up for the first time, and I think it was around 30 did not. So the vast majority of our customers did renew or signed up for the first time. So of those who did not, in a general Senate, obviously I can't speak for the council members and their decision making, but from my experience, it's kind of two buckets. One, it would have been funding. So some of the organizations received state grants and those ran out and they didn't have general fund dollars. And the second one, which is probably more of what you're thinking of, I think, and this is just my personal read, so take it as that, but I think folks are concerned about, from what I've heard, the federal government, and we work really hard in how the federal government engages, not just with Flock, but other law enforcement around the country, which is why we work really hard to underline the fact that you control your sharing controls, and in California, as the captain mentioned, it's very restricted. So there is no out-of-state sharing. It's prohibited for any engagement with federal agencies, so in California it is very restricted. Obviously, state law is different anywhere you go. So in California, you are truly only permitted to operate within your state. It's prohibited to operate with, engage with any federal agencies with the data. And on top of that, we do mention that Flock does not have any contracts with DHS or ICE either. But I would say it is budget and then just general anxiety around the relationship between the federal government is my kind of easiest read to tell you from what I've heard in the community. But again, from my perspective, we really have a lot of controls in place to ensure that customers are only sharing with the folks they want to nationwide. But again, in California, it's even tighter. The system doesn't even allow you to share outside of California on any issue of immigration, on any issue of reproductive health care, or with any federal agency. The system won't even allow you to do it.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Does that answer your
Thank you.
question? Wonderful.
If I may add just a little bit, give you kind of anecdotally from conversation with other chiefs, I just came from a conference where we were discussing Flock, and the Flock rep has given us a presentation. First, correlation is not necessarily causation, as far as what everybody is seeing, as far as why people are canceling, without having some insight into having a discussion with the city manager, city council, the police chief, understanding the nuances. It's difficult to answer that question. What we do know, what we do feel, sense here is that this issue is very politically charged. Wrong, right, or indifferent. I am not up here to defend Flock or anything else. I'm here to just provide facts and let council and the community make their own decision based on the facts that we know. I will tell you that I probably gave the flock representatives a mouthful. Like, I was very direct, and from a transparency standpoint, as far as like things that can be done better. I believe flock is now going in that direction, communicating, being transparent, installing safeguards, guardrails to ensure that they are compliant with SB 34, SB 54, things that probably should have been done before, and this is the critical me questioning them. And I'm questioning them and being overly critical because the community, rightfully so, is being critical of us. I want to make sure that as a community member that they feel comfortable in the information that we as an agency are procuring and that we are using. At the end of the day, for me, output technology, flock technology is designed to increase positive outcomes for the betterment of the community. Doesn't matter what system that you use. I mean, this is technology, that is where the world is going. I think the difficult part of this is explaining it, and as I said before, I'm not a subject matter expert. I'll leave that up to Mr. McCormick to explain for themselves the benefits of and the safeguards and the guardrails that we know we all want.
Thank you, Chief. James?
All right. So as I mentioned earlier, did a lot of research leading up to this meeting and everything, and it's overwhelming, the information that's out there. So I broke down a list of pros and cons. I'm not in a position to recommend one way or another, but I think what we can do as a body is identify the benefits of it and the concerns of it, and then we can share this information with the city council to make whatever decisions they want to make with it. First and foremost on the pros is the staff time and cost. It's been demonstrated by the captain. It saves time. It saves resources. It can solve. This technology can be used to resolve issues in a much quicker and much more expedient amount of time than not having these tools. It's not just Flock, but having any of these tools that do this. There is a wide range. Chief already started naming it. There's a wide range of policies and procedures within the department already around the safeguarding of information and who has access to it. We've got information on audits and inspections, searches. We have an anti-reproductive rights policy. I don't know if folks were aware of that. There's a specific ALPR policy. There's computers and digital evidence policy about this. There's also some pending state legislation to add more rules as well. We have data retention policies, and then again, I did get a chance to talk with Narbe a little bit before, and I know that there's some additional pending changes, I guess, that are coming from the state. So there's a lot of robust rules in place. I want to switch over to the cons side for a moment. Had this conversation with some of my colleagues today at work, two different colleagues, two different situations, where we were talking about rules exist because something went wrong. So all of our policies and procedures that we have, state and federal legislation, has to do not just with directing and controlling and guiding the larger body, but also in response to things that have gone wrong. And as the captain identified, it's the human factor that usually gets in the way of all of this. And there will be issues that will come up. It's how are those issues dealt with as we address them. This applies on the con side. It's not just Flock. There's multiple systems, but we're focused on Flock right now because they're in the news. We've already talked about other systems that have these same issues. I liken this discussion to firearm safety. And it often gets there's the guns shouldn't be anywhere, but we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And then there's it's not the gun, it's the user that's the problem as well. This is very similar to it. These technologies are tools. How they're used, how they're applied, how they are regulated is really the biggest issue. And also, how do we respond to it after something goes wrong, which is the second piece that I have, liability and lawsuits. This is a major risk factor that we have to think about. So anything that we implement, like firearms, we need to think about what is the liability associated with it and what kind of lawsuits is the city and our respective entities going to be involved in. Data integrity has been in the news. We know that these systems are managed and maintained. My brother is a computer tech and he's a coder, and so he comes across problems. In the code, something goes wrong. A system ends up having a failure because something goes wrong, and then it's the coders that go in and fix it. That's the example that we heard from Ventura and other locations. So yes, there are people that will step in to fix problems, but there's going to be problems, and there's going to be liability associated with those problems. The last one, and this was identified earlier actually in one of our commenters from the audience, was around price control. That's a reality. This is something that if not only with the liability and the lawsuits, but price control for the product itself, how it's going to expand. We went from 3 cameras to, I believe, 57 cameras in the city of Burbank. We didn't really get into the cost associated with that. And right now the department is justifying the cost of it in terms of the savings around staff time and cost and everything, but we don't have control over that in the future. So that is a potential liability with the product itself. I mentioned this earlier as well. We all carry around cell phones, so data is out there. Data is being used about us all the time that we have no awareness of. Right now, it's just Flock. But there are other systems that we should be mindful of, and I just don't know whether there's a way to control how that data is always being accessed, which is why it's really difficult to make a recommendation one way or another, but we do need to look at the liability associated with all of these systems.
James, I really appreciate that. Of course, I wanted to wait for everyone's conversation, everyone's discussion and input before I gave my thoughts on it. I believe that, there's a direct correlation between public safety and quality of life. I think that, as a police commissioner in the city of Burbank, my position is to scrutinize and hold the department accountable based on evidence that we've seen of any type of misuse, any nefarious activity. But obviously, from the presentation we saw today, we're seeing that it is a useful tool the department uses to solve crimes, and in its essence. So I can't control what another department does, another agency. I can't hold them accountable. But in the city of Burbank, that is something that we can do. So in regards to surveillance, and I completely agree with you. I think that a lot of people are scared of surveillance right now. I mean, you can just go on Google Maps and you can find your house. You can drive down the street, you'll see a Waymo with cameras, traveling, taking people driverless, taking pictures of the environment around them, and you're participating in that just by being present. You have a cell phone with a camera that can easily be turned on if it was hacked into, and you subscribe to giving your information out to social media. So when it comes to Flock, from the limitations that we've seen, I don't think there's as extreme as what some of the other things that we automatically do anyway. So what I would say is that I agree with you, James. I can't really make a recommendation on this topic because I haven't seen anything that would provide me enough evidence that this is being misused in any way that would obviously put anybody in the city of Burbank in jeopardy. And obviously, we're always concerned about being watched. But we also have to think about what we automatically participate in anyway, And I agree. Sometimes rules are made because of bad things happen. But there's also times where rules are made where bad things don't happen. We just want to prevent things from happening, So all I would say is that, from what I've seen is from my conversation with Captain Stoll and seeing this live, I haven't seen anything that's, negative or nefarious. I've seen more of a positive connection to crimes being solved. So, I mean, if anyone wants to challenge that and have that conversation, I'm more than welcome to. But I think, Mike, you had some comments you were about to lead in?
You're right. We have not heard anything negative. And we haven't heard, I was a little nicely surprised that we had a representative from Flock here tonight. But we didn't hear any other side. And I'm not sure I could make a decision without knowing more information about more background about the different cities, the suit that's a class action suit that's going on, concerns about an organization named DFLOC, or ACLU. The different rights organizations have concerns about this as well. And we have not heard any input from anybody from that area.
Mr. Chapman, I think we did hear some concerns from the citizens tonight.
Yeah.
But I think that the captain and the Flock representative meticulously diffused those concerns. And as technology advances, that may be a moot point. Tomorrow they may beat it. But I think for now, every precaution that's being taken possible. Mr. Coombs keeps talking about our cell phones. Our cars are now tracked, whether we like it or not. So yes, we're tracked wherever we go. But I think the most important thing about this is we are a city of 100,000 people at night. We are a city of 300 or more thousand people in the daytime. The police department is responsible for policing 300,000 people as they come and they go. And our shopping, the Empire Center increases that. This is a tool that I don't think is a luxury. I think it's essential. I watched the robbery across the street from my house 3 nights in a row. Three nights out of 7. On the third time, CHP got them. I live 1 block from the 5 freeway. CHP got them on the freeway. Maybe if that was not 20 years ago, that would have been something that would have been handled faster. But because we live so close to a freeway, entry and exit from our city is very rapid, and this is an essential tool. But above all, whatever the cost is, I think what the captain pointed out with the hours saved, can you just imagine manually going through and even alerting all these other agencies, the hours that would take in overtime or police, an officer off the street sitting in front of a computer. So I agree with you. I think the concerns have been brought up, but I think those concerns that were brought up this evening have been addressed, and we should keep our ear to the phone to look for future concerns.
Do you have, we're open discussion now, right? What are our thoughts? Are we thinking about giving us a suggestion to council or passing, or is that what we're discussing really?
From the evidence that we've seen today, my take on it, my personal opinion, I haven't seen anything that would point to any negative or any type of cautionary. I mean, of course, in regards to surveillance stuff, we're always going to talk about being cautious, but in regards to the police department using it in a nefarious way or in anything connection to that, again, we can't control if other agencies across the way do anything with the system. However, in the city of Burbank, if we're not seeing anything there, I can't really make a responsible recommendation based on, there wasn't anything negative that was presented.
I'm sorry. The only recommendation I would make is that we're on a 1-year contract, and I agree 100% with the caller that said the prices go up.
Yeah.
I think that if we're going to be making a commitment to this, we should make a long-term commitment so that the finances don't change. So that way we know we don't become dependent on this and then it gets doubled in a year. So probably contrary to the popular opinion, I think that when it comes up in July, we should be looking for a long-term contract so that we can control the finances.
Thank you, Paul. Michael?
Well, as we've heard tonight, there are other companies in the same business as Flock. And when the contract is up, we might decide to go in a different direction for different reasons. But it's a situation where I haven't heard anything tonight at all saying about a misuse of the system in Burbank. And we are the Burbank Police Commission.
Yep.
There are abuses in other jurisdictions, but that's beyond our control or scope or anything. And it's very sad. We're living in a world that's much more dangerous than it used to be. And it's unfortunate that tools like this have to be developed for surveillance reasons. But as long as we have to live with it, we have to really guard against abuse and, not using tools like this for the purpose that they were acquired. And the other thing is, this system, the way it's being used in Burbank, is it's taking photos of cars in the public right-of-way. In the public right-of-way, you do not have privacy. You cannot have an expectation of privacy. You have privacy in your home. When you're on a public street, you can't expect to have privacy. And that's the way it is.
Thank you, Michael. I also just want to point out that our commission meeting will end at 8 p.m. So some of the other agenda items will have to be pushed to our next meeting. So,
If I can,
absolutely.
if I can respond, if we're looking locally just in Burbank, Mike, I agree with you. It's about control here. We're talking about a use of a system, and we're talking about use of technology that goes way beyond Burbank. I'm thinking of other examples. I'm thinking about the debate in Burbank over the last couple of years around the number of gun stores. Burbank residents aren't buying all the guns, though they're all over Southern California and beyond. We're talking about a data system that we use here that's a really useful tool. And we specifically talked about the staff time and the cost associated with investigations. That helps us out exponentially within the city of Burbank. The concern is, and you started to allude to this, the concern is are we participating in a system that has the potential to cause harm in other locations based on how the data is being shared? And yes, that is not a Burbank-specific issue, but we're contributing to it. And that's why I'm ambivalent about this whole thing.
Well, any system can be abused. And you can love ice cream, and there's nothing wrong with ice cream, but if you gorge yourself on it, it's going to cause you problems. So everything is a two-edged sword. And, I just hope that our safeguards work, continue to work. But, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, our safeguards do. I trust that our safeguards do. I'm concerned about all the other entities that we share the data with.
Thank you, James.
I agree with everything you said, and I was sitting here thinking, well, what would it look like in terms of managing crime, et cetera, safety of our police officers? What would it look like if we dropped Flock? What would we be up against then? And I don't like what that looks like.
I have to echo that. I absolutely have to echo that. Based on the statistics that we saw and the crimes that were solved, if they weren't, what condition would the city of Burbank be in? We have to put that into consideration as well, because if we're looking at the nuances, we're looking at the small percentages of misuse of nefarious activity, and we're trying to justify an entire system being revoked based on that. I just think that's irresponsible, and that's my personal opinion on that.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
And to follow up on that, we receive statistics on how it works. All the concerns that we heard about what might happen, we received no actual reference to it happening, other than the Costa Mesa thing, which, again, the captain addressed. But in the city of Burbank, our checks and balances seem to be working, and if it ain't broke, I don't think we should fix it.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so any other points of discussion, or we can move on? So it looks like what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move on, but we're not going to be able to get to your presentation, so we're going to have to push that to the next month. So we'll go straight into the introduction of the agenda items. Sorry, Paul.
You guys hold on.
So it looks like a great packet, though. Looks like a great packet, though. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to item H, introduction of agenda items for future meetings, and just to let
Mr.
everyone.
Chair, I do believe that the chief
Oh,
has
I'm so
stuff for
sorry.
item 4, which
Oh, I'm
should
so
not
sorry.
take too long.
I looked right over you. Sorry, sir. All right, item 4, general announcement by the Chief Quintero.
It'll be quick. I'm just bringing up my my event list. Officers will be attending a Scouting America bike rodeo on Saturday, April 18th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Roosevelt Elementary School. We just had 2 police officers graduate from the Police Academy on April 9th. I was really proud of one of them. Almost had it just there as being the honor recruit. It's been a while since we've had the honor recruit. It was between him and a custody deputy, but 2 great candidates. 1 recruit is expected to graduate the academy in May, and we currently have 14 recruits in the academy with 3 more starting in June. And, not that far away, I'm looking forward to Police and Fire Service Day again.
Thank you, sir. Oh, that should be fun.
Number of sworn.
We are at 160. And I keep giving my staff, Lieutenant Feckery and all the background investigators, really, they deserve all the credit. They have been, grinding. Really appreciate them for the work that they've been able to do and accomplish and really set us up for success.
Thank you, Chief. And now we will move on to item H, introduction of agenda items for future meetings. It looks like we're going to go ahead and we have the presentation and discussion and recommendations on the Blue Envelope program. Paul, it looks like for our next meeting, we don't have anything agendized. And it's going to be on May 20th. We can move the Blue Envelope program presentation to May.
May I ask for an addition to that?
Sure.
The Blue Envelope program that I want to present is a method. It's not the method. And I would like it if maybe Ann can add in on that, on what the school district already does, and maybe the police department can add along the same lines, because I think that the success of this program is when the three merge and we create our own.
So are you asking to amend the?
I'm asking for input from those other two sources, if that's possible.
Gina, is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. You could, having the discussion now, if you want to expand the agenda item as opposed to having it exactly as it is, you can do that. That's your
Okay.
discussion now, just come to an agreement and.
That's how I would have concluded this presentation. I would have asked for input in the future from the.
Yeah, the commission did receive a presentation from the department a few years ago on the program that's within the department. I'm wondering if it would be worthwhile that we take the time to review that presentation. I think it's online before we. I'm hesitant to have the department present something that they've already presented on.
Is the department presenting on this, or are you presenting on this?
No, I'm presenting on it, but I was saying is that when I brought it up initially, the chief mentioned that the department has a program.
Okay.
If it would be helpful, I have Lieutenant Fekete here who can probably in a minute or less give you some insight into what that program is, because he was prepared should we have proceeded.
Oh, okay, so no, that's all. If
Just
if
real
he's
quick.
prepared in May, that'd be great, chief.
No, just to Commissioner
Okay.
Coombs' question as far as what we currently have.
Good evening, Lieutenant Brent Fekete, Community Outreach Personnel Services. We currently have a sticker program. It's dubbed our Mental Health Awareness Program. It's through our MET team, and it's intended for special needs. You can put it on your window, in your vehicle, at your house, and all it is intended to alert first responders that you may be interacting with somebody with special needs. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
That would be one of the things we'd want to include in this, which down the line, and again, Ms. Wetzel talks about what the school does. Because this program basically starts there, but also goes for someone on a bicycle, someone walking, other things that they'd be wearing. So we can discuss that in May. I don't want to take too much time. But I just want to put out there that it's going to be an era of communication, not pontification.
Okay, so from what I understand, this presentation, you want to move to May, and you want Ann to be part of that conversation.
I will move to May, and I want to say that I will be welcoming the input from Ann and from Lieutenant.
Oh, we can have input during discussion.
Okay, that's great. I'm just
Mr. Chair.
putting it out there.
What I understand the commissioner to be saying is that he would like the agenda item to be expanded to include perhaps other programs that address similar issues, whether it be from the school district or from the police department or other things that the commissioners may research and find prior to that date. But it's going to be an expanded agenda item to discuss
And do we
in
need to,
addition to the blue envelope.
do we need to take a vote on that, or?
You should, just the way that you would
Okay,
do any
perfect.
new agenda item.
Okay, so Paul, go ahead and make that motion.
I'll make a motion that we expand it to include all current existing programs so that we can make the best use of what's available.
Paul motions, Michael seconds, and we'll go to roll call.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coombs?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hakobian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
Thank you, and so that's been agendized for May. And also, we had item number 3, discussion of recommendations or methods of means of improving community engagement between the police commission and community members. When is Police and Fire Day? May 10th. Okay, so it's going to take place after that. Okay, so would we want to move that to May?
I'm sorry, let me confirm that, sir. No,
Good
police
question.
fire day would be May 9th.
Okay, that's fine.
Are we allowed to ask a question about a possible other agenda item that's
Well,
not yet?
No, that's going to be when you're introducing the new agenda items. We're just going to go over
Okay.
number 3 because we're going to have to, it was agendized today, but we have to move that to either May or June. Are you guys okay with moving it to May? Okay. So we'll just move it to May.
Before we go into additional new agenda items, there's also, we agendized something, but we didn't put a date on it. It's review of the Ripper report.
Yes, sir. And for the Ripper report, I believe, was that you, James?
It was.
When would you like that?
It was dependent, we were talking about doing it in the future, and I believed it involved making sure the department was prepared to share that information. So it hasn't been received
Okay.
yet, so that's
So we'll just wait.
still in a holding pattern then.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so now what we'll do is we will, in regards to the community engagement conversation, are we okay? May's okay? Just want to confirm? Okay, wonderful. And now we can move on to new agenda items.
I thought at one point we discussed, and under the capacity of the purpose of the police commission, discuss other ways to involve the community.
That,
Social media postings of what's coming up, what agenda
I
items.
believe that's going to be the conversation we're going to have in May. Yeah.
Oh, it's on
For
for
community
me?
engagement, yeah,
Okay, perfect.
yeah, that's absolutely. Anybody else, new agenda items? James, Mike? Okay, so I will go. I would love to agendize a review and discussion of the department's pursuit policy, including risk reward versus rewards, safety considerations, community expectations, along with opportunities for public education. And do I have a second?
Do we need to include when in the, when we would have that presentation?
I would say I would probably, because we have a packed agenda in June.
You don't have to, if you just want to do a future agenda, but you want to put the topic and then have a vote, you can do that as well. Again, it's up to the chair.
I would say June, because we have nothing for June. Okay. You have a second?
I'll second.
James seconds, and we can go to roll call.
Commissioner Chapman? Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coons?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. So since there's no more new agenda items, we're going to move on to item I for, which is our next meeting date is May 20th, 2026, 6 p.m. at the City Council chambers. And our meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.